You're listening to the Aviation Show,
brought to you by DiBella Training.
For more information, contact us on www.dibella.co.za now.
Hi folks, and welcome to the Aviation Show. We're coming to you live from 27 Boxes in Melville. My name's Des Werner, and joining me live in studio is the beautiful Belinda Werner. Welcome to the show.
Hi, welcome, and we're so happy to share our passion of aviation with you guys.
Yeah, so let's kick off a fantastic show. We've got a brilliant lineup for you. And let me just start by introducing myself. As I said, my name's Des, and my background is flying. I'm a pilot, and I've got just on 10,000 flying hours. It started way back when I was 15 years old, and I went solo on my 17th birthday. And we've done everything from, bush flying to med-rescue flying to a little bit of contract flying, airline flying. And here I sit today with the Aviation Show. So it's been an absolutely fantastic ride. At the moment I'm with DiBella Training, where I do training of crew resource management, CRM, and maintenance human factors. And then we do quite a few inspirational talks and stuff like that. But yeah, it's been absolutely brilliant ride, as I say, up to now. So, Belinda, your history is in maintenance, and it also started back in Namibia. I think was when you got involved with aviation with me.
Yes, that is correct. My aviation career basically started as an air hostess on a DC-6, a beautiful old lady that we used to fly for Namibia Commercial Aviation. And then we moved back to South Africa, and I started working in charter and operations. At that time, I also did my pilot's license, and then eventually moved over to the maintenance side, which I found really, really interesting. On the maintenance side, I started doing training, and then eventually started DiBella Training about 9 years ago. We're very passionate about training and helping other people to find their passion in aviation.
And what would you say, people always, when you talk about aviation, people will always kind of think pilots. The first thing that they think is pilots. So what kind of advice would you give them when you say aviation? What would you say that includes?
Well, the aviation industry is so large. As you say, when people think about aviation, the first picture you see is the pilots in the black jackets with the stripes on the arms. Yes, that is the first idea. But there's actually so much behind the scenes that happens and that people are not aware of. So it's the purpose of the show, so we can expose the listeners to all sorts of different elements in the aviation sector.
And that's what we're so excited about is, the people that we bring in, the people that we've got lined up. We've got, amongst others, we've got airline pilots, obviously, because, everybody thinks about pilots as the most important. But then we've got aircraft maintenance engineers, we've got aviation safety experts, we've got the fire and safety that are coming, air traffic control. We're still working on civil aviation to try and get them here. What else can you think of?
Yeah, on the maintenance side, where I'm more knowledgeable, we're going to look at different aspects of the maintenance. And also, there's ground handling, there's fuel, there's all sorts of stuff that people don't always think about.
Yeah, and then there's obviously specific stories. Now, each show we're going to have an aviation story, and we encourage you guys, if you've got stories, to send them in to us, because that's what makes the industry so passionate, is the stories, and some of them are very funny, some of them are quite sad. Whatever story you've got, send them in to us, and we'll see if we can put them on air. And then we've got stuff like check-in staff, even the people that manage the parking, the search and rescue. I don't know if you know it, but if you file a flight plan and then you forget to cancel what they call search and rescue, they actually are going to come and look for you, and you normally sit with that bill, which is can be quite interesting if you're not aware of the implications. And then obviously Belinda's speciality is human factors, maintenance human factors, and I speak a lot about the pilot human factors.
Yeah, I love the human factor side because I don't think it's only about the aviation. The most common things that happen on the human factor side is to keep the people efficient and safe in their working environment. But it's not only in the working environment of an aircraft maintenance engineer or in the airline section. It is applicable to everybody. If you're in the medical industry, or doesn't matter which industry you are in, it applies to you as well. And if you can identify the most common causes for errors and accidents, we can eliminate a whole lot of stuff.
And that's what I find, what I'm really passionate about, is if you can prevent an accident, if you can just prevent one accident by making other people aware of the human factors in aviation, you know, what they can do. For example, small things like how they can manage their stress. You know, stress is a huge part of everyday environment, and how you can handle that stress. Now, stuff as simple as road rage, you know, you find people going absolutely mad on the road. And then when you break it down, it's not got anything to do with you know, the thing that's happening on the road. It's actually got everything to do with stress and you know, how the stress is getting to them, and that's just the final straw. When that taxi turns in front of you, you just absolutely snap. But it's got nothing to do with the taxi. It's got everything to do with managing your stress. And that's what's very important about human factors, whether it's for pilots or any aviation staff, is how do you manage those human factors. And human factors is such a vast field of expertise. I mean, you can actually do a degree on human factors. And then, you know, as getting back to my side of it, which is the flying bit, as I said, I started at the age of 17, actually 15 I started flying, and 17 I went solo. And your first solo is always the most magnificent feeling. I know you did your private pilot's license. And, you know, that first solo when the instructor climbs out and he says, okay, you're on your own, and you go and you do a full circuit by yourself in this tiny little aeroplane. But if you mess it up, you're going to die. And that's kind of quite scary because you can't pull off the road and just stop and get out. But it's a magnificent feeling when you actually accomplish it. When you get out of the aeroplane and you've done your first solo, and you've done something that a large portion of the population hasn't done. It's an amazing feeling. I don't know how you felt about your first solo.
Definitely. It was an incredible feeling. It was just once the legs turned back to solid instead of jelly, and you realize what you actually have done, then you feel so proud. And it's so important that we do acknowledge what we do and acknowledge ourselves.
And it's celebrating it well. I mean, it's a huge achievement. So, you know, one of the topics that we talk about are the requirements to become a pilot and what's involved. So I'll be telling you about that a little bit later in the show. But anybody that is wanting to become a pilot or wanting to become an engineer, you know, what kind of advice would you give them as far as passion and dedication? You know, it's not just a job. You need passion and you need dedication. And what would you say is the most important thing?
It is definitely passion. So if you are not interested in flying, don't do it, because if you don't have the passion and the commitment to give it your 100%, you're going to kill people. It's as simple as that. Because if you're not 100% focused on what you are doing, your errors are going to kill people. It's as simple as that. And that is why the aviation industry is so safe, because they focus a lot on the stuff that can go wrong.
Yeah, you know, the aviation industry, people kind of look at it and they think, wow, it's so unsafe, because as soon as there's a aircraft accident, it makes news headlines. But statistically speaking, it's probably one of the safest modes of transport. And that's because it's run in such a professional environment. I mean, from when you start up that engine as a pilot, you're speaking to air traffic control, and then, you know, when you take off, you're still speaking to air traffic control. You've got the correct training, the correct licensing. Now you compare that to what's happening on the roads. The roads is a totally different, you know, kettle of fish, as opposed to the aviation industry, which is a professionally run industry.
Yeah, I saw statistics the other day about the aviation industry, and they said if you board an aircraft every day for 26 years, your chances are that you will be involved in one incident, not an accident, an incident, and then from that you still have an 80% chance of walking away. So I don't know many people that get onto an aircraft as a passenger every day for 26 years in a row.
They've got this perception that it's dangerous, which because you're not, like a car, you can't pull over and stop. Potentially it is dangerous, but if you've got the right training, statistically, I think you're a lot better off. And
you said when you went solo the first time, it's a great achievement and all of that, but eventually flying becomes like driving a car. Your memory, your muscle memory and everything kicks in, just like when you started driving a car. It was quite hard, the same as when you start flying. It is really, really hard. But after a while you get used to the emotions and the stuff you have to check and all of that, and it becomes like driving a car.
It does become like driving a car, but that also doesn't make it safer, the fact that you can do all of these things. That's actually what makes it quite dangerous, is because you forget to do certain things, or you do things that are on the checklist but you don't actually move the switch, which that really becomes pretty dangerous. But a movie that we both enjoyed lately is that movie called Sully, where they did a successful landing in the Hudson and 155 people saved. I mean, as I say, that's what I'm really passionate about, is if you can be part of that, part of the training of what happened in his decision making, to not turn back to LaGuardia Airport, because they would have landed in amongst the buildings and killed a lot more people, and they landed successfully in the Hudson, which is absolutely wow. I mean, so if you haven't seen the movie, I really encourage you to go and see it. It's not like an aircraft crash investigation. It's a brilliant movie to go and actually watch. And I think I've watched it 2 or 3 times already, so I thought it was really, really fantastic.
Yeah, well, I think because we have such a passion for aviation, we always do go for the aviation movies. Another one I enjoyed was the Flight movie with Denzel Washington.
I fly that airplane, so I found it a little bit kind of over-exaggerated, the way that it was flying upside down and that type of stuff. But I enjoyed the MD-80, which is quite a nice aircraft. So, yeah. But we're going to talk about, the part of the AME, which is the maintenance engineers, straight after the break. Let's go to Ad.
DiBella Training and Management provides South African civil aviation approved training to aircraft maintenance engineers. From engine to airframe, DiBella offers international quality courses on a wide range of aircraft. Many of our clients are from Africa and the Far East, enjoying DiBella's tranquil on-site accommodation minutes away from the airport, and also provide courses in your country depending on your training needs. DiBella's pioneering range of practical hands-on training videos augment the DiBella theoretical modules, modernizing the aviation training industry. Visit www.dibella.co.za now. DiBella, you name it, we train it.
Okay, so welcome back. And Belinda's going to tell us now about AMEs, which is what's an AME?
AME is an aircraft maintenance engineer, and that is the person that looks after the maintenance of the aircraft. So it's really, really important. If your aircraft is not airworthy or in a serviceable state, you cannot use it, and then all of it comes to a standstill. So for now, we're just going to discuss a couple of different options that you have as an aircraft maintenance engineer. The whole process from beginning to obtaining your first license will be 5 years. So it is quite a long process. And if you look at the qualifications in accordance with SAQA, it's a level 5 qualification. So it's higher than matric, but it's not quite a degree. Although it is a lot of work and it takes a long time to get there. So the route you would take is you would start off as an apprentice, and first, before you do that, you need to decide which area you want to go to. So you basically have either the mechanical side, or you have the normally called the avionics side. So the mechanical side, you will look after the airframes and engines, and then the avionics side, you will look after the radios, the instruments, the electrical side of the aircraft. So you have to decide which way you're going to go. And then from there, you would go for your first year in apprenticeship. You would do formal training, which will be through one of the apprenticeship schools. And then after that, you would be placed, or you will have to look for a job in one of the aircraft maintenance organizations, commonly referred to as an AME. And then you start working on the aircraft under supervision. That will be for another 2 years. So your first year will be your formal training, your theoretical training with basic hand skills and stuff. And then thereafter, another 2 years of actual practical work experience. After that, you would go to a testing station, and you will do a trade test where you are tested to see if you're proficient in carrying out all the tasks that is required to give you a little bit of more credibility than just an apprentice. Normally, the guys are referred to as a mechanic after the trade test, and before they become licensed engineers, they normally refer to as a mechanic or a technician.
And then how difficult is it once you've qualified and you've gone through this whole process? How difficult is it then to actually get a job out there?
There's a huge shortage of aircraft maintenance engineers. In America, for example, they called ANPs, airframe and power plant technicians. In Europe, they have a different licensing system to what we have. But worldwide, in the East, Australia, everywhere, there is a major shortage of aircraft maintenance engineers. I had a look at the critical skills shortage on SACWA and TITA's website, and one of the top critical shortages are aircraft maintenance engineers. So TITA, you might hear me speak about TITA, that is the people that looks after the to-be engineer while they are still an apprentice. And they make sure they monitor the progress of the guys, and they have a logbook that they have to complete in certain tasks they have to complete before they are entitled to go for their trade test.
And then obviously the more aircraft you've got on the license, the more marketable you are and the more sought after you are, and obviously the more you'll get paid as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely. The more licenses you hold, many companies have a pay scale based on the amount of licenses applicable to that company. So it doesn't help you have stuff that is really random and nobody can use it. But at least you are licensed. TITA is for the Transport Education Training Authority. So they look after the apprentice, and as soon as they have completed the trade test, then they move over to the Civil Aviation Authority side, and then CAA starts looking after them and look after their progress and their licensing and stuff from there.
Okay, and when you start talking about pilots, everybody's talking about a pilot shortage, and there's a worldwide pilot shortage, and airlines are starting to park aircraft because they can't get enough pilots. There's probably quite a few pilots out there that have got maybe 200 hours and aren't qualified. But what the airlines are looking for are pilots with the right qualifications, and I think it's the same is applicable with aircraft maintenance engineers. Is if they've got the correct licenses, then they're very, very, very marketable.
Very marketable, yeah, and they will be paid quite well, and even the opportunities worldwide. South African engineers are very sought after all over the world. There's a couple of things that you need to do to convert your license or to have it validated by another state. But it's not impossible. It's not that hard, and basic training in South Africa is very good.
Okay, and anybody that's got more questions, where can they get hold of you?
They can send me an email to belinda@dibella.co.za or info@dibella.co.za.
Okay, cool. And then the requirements for for the pilot side, let's speak about that quickly. So there's 3 different categories. There's a private pilot's license, which is commonly known as a PPL, and then you can get a night rating with a PPL. So you don't have to have you don't have to have any special qualification to have a night rating. And then obviously you get a commercial pilot's license, and the difference between a private pilot's license and a commercial pilot's license is you can actually fly for gain. In other words, you can charge for your services, whereas a private pilot, you can just fly for fun. But you can do quite a lot with a private pilot's license. It's just going to cost you every time you hire the aircraft, or if you've got your own aircraft, you've got to pay for it. You can't,
and it is an expensive hobby.
Sure, yeah, you're telling me. You can't actually get paid for it. And when I started, I used to take friends up for flips, and we used to split the costs and try and impress our girlfriends. And then we used to do skydiving as well, where I wouldn't get paid for the flying, but I'd get a free skydive every weekend, and that's kind of how I started building my hours. So once you get your private license, your private pilot's license, you need to be at least 17 years. As I said, I went solo on my 17th birthday. So soon after that, once you get your hours, which is 45 hours for a private pilot's license, once you've got that, then you've basically set free as a private pilot. You can take your passengers and off you go. That's probably the most scariest part of your aviation career, because that's when you're bound to, if you don't kill yourself, it's quite dangerous, because you don't have the experience and you don't know what you don't know. So what I would encourage is anybody that's doing a PPL or going to do a PPL, get as much experience as you can and get a night rating minimum, because they cover some of the instrument flying there, and once you've done instrument flying, you can get yourself out a little bit of trouble. And then from there on, you go to commercial pilot's license, where you can fly for gain, and that you need 200 hours to get your commercial pilot's license.
And a whole lot of difficult subjects.
And a couple of difficult subjects. So I would suggest go and do the difficult subjects as soon as you can, and then do the flying, because the flying is what's going to cost you the money. And then from then, you just kind of build on the job training. So while you're working for a company, you build up these hours. And then you come to another set of exams, which is called ATP, or Airline Transport Pilot's License. And that requirement to write your ATP is 1,500 hours. And once you've got that, now you can basically have command. You can get command of an aircraft. What's the weight? About 5,700.
That's correct.
5,700 kilograms. You can get command, so you can be captain on that aircraft. With a commercial pilot's license, you can still be captain on smaller aircraft, but not above that
large category.
Yeah. So it's a very interesting career. Those are kind of the requirements that you need to keep in mind. You can go to our website and have a look. We've got the details up there. Otherwise, pop me an email, des@dibella.co.za, and I'd be happy to put you in contact with the right people. But I think now we've got to the aviation story slot, eh?
Real aviation stories with DiBella.
Submit your real-life story to www.dibella.co.za.
And you could be featured on the Aviation Show live on brandlive.co.za or in our upcoming book.
And welcome to the story slot. And as I said before, if you've got any stories, please submit them to us. Send me an email at des@dibella.co.za, and we'd love to feature them on the show. We can maybe even have you here telling your own story, or possibly in the book. Depends how good the story is. So let me kick off with one that happened a while ago. We were just starting the descent for Johannesburg, and at the time I was flying an old DC-9 for One-Time Airlines, and I got this ding from the in-charge flight attendant, and I picked up the interphone, and she said to me, "Captain, we've got this young boy, and he would like to come and see the cockpit." And I looked at the co-pilot, and the co-pilot looked at me, and we both said, "Oh, no, I think he can come and join us." And in those days, we didn't have a problem taking people up to the flight deck. So a few minutes later, we opened the door, and there stood this bald-haired little guy called Frankie. And he didn't have a hair in his head because of the chemotherapy. He was wearing this flap jacket with this like army camo outfit, and these thick glasses on his nose. And he had a distinct American accent. And he said, "Hello, my name's Frankie." And I said, "Hello, Frankie, where are you from? What part of the States are you from?" And he said to me, "No, I'm from Boksburg." And what actually turned out, we found out later that his mom used to play all of these war movies, and he used to watch war movies, while he was trying to recover from the cancer. And he used to live himself into every movie, and eventually he kind of picked up this American accent. So he walked into the cockpit, and his first words were like, "Wow, you guys are cool, man." So I said, "Well, why don't you have a seat?" And we put him down on the observer seat, and old Frankie was absolutely amazed. And we told him the rules. We said to him, "You can't speak, and you must sit there and be good and enjoy the ride." And we started explaining all the buttons, and I said, "This button is for this, and this button is for that, and that button is for that." And the next thing, he pops out of the blue, and he says, "Does this thing have guns?" So I looked at the co-pilot, and he looked back at me, and we thought he has a good opportunity to have some fun. So I said to him, "It sure does. Arm the guns." And old Justin said to me, "The guns are armed, Captain." And on our old DC-9, they've got a little overspeed warning, and it's a button that you can push test to see if it's actually working. And if you push this, it sounds very much like a gun. It goes tuck, 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 tuck. Anyway, at that point, we were descending over Heidelberg, and we could see a couple of trucks on the highway. And this DC-9's got a very hard dash, and old Frankie was sitting in the back there, kind of peering over the dash. And I said to Justin, "Fire the guns!" And he pushed the button and went tuck, 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 tuck. And straight away, Frankie stretched his neck to look over the dash, and he said, "Did we get them? Did we get them?" I said, "We smoked them." And around about that point, we got handed over to radar control, and the conversation went much like this. It was next on 309, contact radar now 1245. And there's a couple of things that you don't want to say in an aircraft. One of them is bomb, and another one you definitely don't want to say is mayday, especially if there's not anything wrong. And as we got handed over to radar control, they said, "Contact radar 1245, and old Justin went over, and he said, "Radar, good afternoon, this is next time 309. And old Frankie's sitting there, loving every moment. He pops up, "Mayday, mayday, mayday, we've been shot down." And that was shortly followed by, "Shut up!" And old Frankie just absolutely having the time of his life. And radar came back to us and said, "Confirm you've been shot down?" We said, "No, negative. We've just got an excited child here in the cockpit." And then we did the rest of the approach. We landed in Johannesburg. He sat there for the landing, and he loved every second of it. And we thought, wow, we're making such a difference in this guy's life. This is so cool. And then his mom, when she came to fetch him, she stood outside the cockpit, and the tears were running down her face. And he turned to me, and he said something that changed my life forever. And he put out his little hand, and he said to me, "Captain, live every moment." And it hits you like a bullet in your chest, that a 10-year-old knows that he's dying of cancer. And he says to you, live every moment. And you think that you're making such a difference in his life, but meantime, he makes a difference in your life. And if you ever get an email from me on my phone, at the bottom it says, live every moment, and that comes from old Frankie. So yeah, that's the first story, and as I say, I encourage you to send them in, but we've reached the end of the show so quickly, so until we meet again, we'll join you next week, same time, same place, from me, Des Werner, and my co-pilot, Belinda.
Thank you, and bye-bye. See you next week.
Bye-bye.
You have been listening to The Aviation Show on brandlive.co.za, proudly brought to you by DiBella Training.
Visit www.dibella.co.za now.